Good evening and welcome to Season 8, Race 5 of the Vintage Racer Group's
Good evening
Virtual
and
Racer
welcome
League.
to
Season 8, Race 5 of the Vintage Racer Group's
Good evening
Virtual
and
Racer
welcome
League.
to
Season 8, Race 5. Apologize for the technical difficulties. After 2 weeks, we're a little rusty here in the booth. My name is Jim Karamanis with the Vintage Racer Group, and tonight we'll be bringing you action from Circuit of the Americas. We are here in the Lotus 79 for Race 5 of Season 8. This, of course, is our season where we race all the America's F1 circuits that have taken part in the Formula One World Championship, at least the ones that are modeled within the iRacing simulation. And of course, we're using the classic Lotus 79 for all of these events. After a 2-week break for the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix, our racers are back on the virtual track. We've got about a little over 20 minutes left in practice. Again, this is Jim Karamanis with the Vintage Racer Group. I'll be back shortly. Enjoy the practice session. Once again, welcome to tonight's Vintage Racer Group Virtual Racer League coverage of Season 8, Race 5 from Circuit of the Americas. Tonight we are in the Lotus 79. Our racers have just a few minutes left in their practice session. Next comes a short qualifying session followed by a qualifying race, which sets the grid for a 30-minute feature race. All points are scored in the feature race. Currently on track now with Steve Ficacci, who is our series points leader. Steve, of course, who was in the booth last season, bringing you the VRL broadcast when our racers were on track in the Audi 90. This season, Steve has been quite dominating in the Lotus 79. Well, we have a host of exceptionally fast drivers on the grid tonight, and they should be up to the challenge. Jeff Underwood currently leading the timesheets at a 157.673, very closely followed by Ian Ditson and Reed Shannabrook. Stefan Vappa rounding out the top four. Jim Graziano in fifth at a 158.905. Dave Curtis at a 159 flat. John Clark at a 2 minutes flat, and Mac McCormick at a 2-minute .9. All our racers with times thus far are fairly close together. Should be an interesting qualifying session. Ditson now goes to the top of the timesheets at a 157.2. Ditson sporting the classic Parmalee livery on his Lotus 79. Ditson was on track in the rear world at Pittsburgh International Raceway 2 weeks ago for the first half of the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix. Racing the family Porsche 944. Reed Shannabrook back with us this week. Reed has been fast all season, sporting the Ford Motorcraft livery on his Lotus 79. And Underwood is back to the top of the timesheets at a 157.1. Top two separated by a tenth. On board with Mac McCormack. Currently with a fast time of a 159.9. Getting faster lap to lap. This is the first time the VRL has been the COTA. Some of these racers probably have more experience here than others. It is a bit of a toe in the real world, so I'm not sure how many of our racers have actually been there in real life. Jim Graziano sporting the Newman Haas livery on his Lotus 79. Classic livery from IndyCar in the 1980s. livery that Mario Andretti would have had on his Indy car. And of course, Mario won the World Championship in the Lotus 79. That car, however, was a Lotus with the John Player Special livery. But the car does look great with Newman Haas livery on it. Thanks to those that are watching on both Facebook and YouTube. We hope you're enjoying tonight's broadcast. We're just about to wrap up practice and we'll kick off our first qualifying session of the night. Steve Ficacci, our series leader, goes to the top of the leaderboard. First kart and driver to dip into the 156 range at a 156.7. Ficacci has raced here in other virtual series. This being a very technical track, the experience might be quite a big advantage. This, of course, the current track in the United States where Formula One races in the real world. Carlos Bonds on track. Looks like he's got some variation of his Hello Kitty livery. Maybe not. I'm seeing an awful lot of hearts, though. Nice shade of pink. And the VRG logo. Ah, sure enough. It is Hello Kitty indeed. Well done, Carlos. Well done. So now we'll drop into a 15-minute individual qualifying session. All drivers get 15 minutes or 7 laps, whichever comes first. Reed Shannabrook, first driver on track. Reed has been in the lead in a couple feature races this season. Has had some issues with the car holding together. Stefan Vappa, who's won the previous 5 seasons, on track. John Clark running his usual understated livery. Vappa sporting the newest iteration of the Vintage Racer Group logo on his wing. Stefan, of course, was on track at Shenley Park this past weekend for the second part of the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix. Stefan, of course, setting fast laps in his Saab Sonnet, as he always does at Shenley Park. Still waiting for our drivers to get some clean times on the board. 12 minutes left in this lone qualifier. On board with Jeff Underwood, who's been fast all season, has finished, I believe, top 3 in every one of our races. Underwood, next to Fakachi, has probably been our most consistent driver this season. Let's see if Jeff can get a time on the board. And Reed Chenebrook, the first to get a time on the board at 1:58.9. Underwood making his way onto the front straight. And he goes straight to the top at a 1:58.4. Dave Curtis running the STP livery this evening. Also reminiscent of some IndyCar livery. STP, of course, being a sponsor of many an IndyCar over the years, and of Richard Petty in NASCAR. And of course, Dave is running the classic number 43 on the car. Curtis looks smooth. One more corner to enter the final straight and cross the finish line. Let's see what he can do. Curtis not able to get a time on the board yet. He must have had an off somewhere. Qualifying laps only count if they're clean. Steve Fakachi to the top of the time sheets at a 1:56.4. Stefan Vappa now slots in the second at a 1:57.6. And Reed Chenebrook is currently third at a 1:57.7. Series leader Fakachi making his way down the back straight. And ladies and gentlemen, we're now joined by Ian Ditson. Hello.
How are we doing?
I'm good. How are you? Why aren't you out there qualifying this evening?
You want the real answer?
Well, that's up to you.
Well, I don't feel like it. From the back. I don't know. I've done a lot of iRacing races. I start from the back, and I either have the greatest race of my life, or I have the worst race of my life. But usually, I have more fun with this getting through until things go really good or things go really bad. So we'll see. And this is a first time driving this car with this track, so you know.
Well, there you go. Well. Maybe you'll be like F1 this past weekend, and starting from the back will be an advantage.
It could be interesting. That's part of the other reason. But I mean, it's only a heat race, and we don't have a lot of people tonight, so.
Right. You know. And of course, our next race is a qualifying race, and it does set the grid for the feature race.
Yeah. So, what are we running next week? I don't know, because, or you don't have to say yet, but I might be able to make that one. That's up in the air at the moment.
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe we're at Watkins Glen next week.
Oh boy, I always have some form of chaos there. But if I don't make that race, this will probably be my last race for a while, as I'm heading off to college this weekend to move into my apartment. So, yeah.
Well, we'll miss you while you're at college, but of course, you're always welcome to drop in and spend some time with me in the booth.
Yeah, we'll do at some point.
Yeah, next week we're actually at Sebring.
Oh, okay, I'm making that race. That's my favorite track.
Yeah, so. Yeah. You always go well at Sebring. After that, the last two races are at Interlagos and then Long Beach.
Two tracks I don't have, I don't mind missing, so. Yeah. How you doing in the booth, though? Have fun?
Yeah, so far so good, thank you. How was PVGP?
Oh, it was great until I was running with the GT350s in the Enduro, and the stub axle snapped.
Oh!
Going through, what is that, like turn 4, I believe? It broke as I got on and out of there. I had to pull off and into the grass, and it broke the front splitter and all sorts of fun stuff. So, got a new rear end. We're going to be throwing that in the car probably next week, and then getting ready to run it Champ.
Well, I'm glad to hear nothing major happened. That could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I was really hot and frustrated about the whole thing and upset. And then I got home, chilling on the couch. A couple weeks later, it's like, if I was going around a high-speed corner, that could have been really freaking bad.
Yeah, that could have been bad. That's very fortunate.
Yeah. But nonetheless, was running really well and had a great time, and still learning a lot from it. So.
Well, that's great. Well, we've got about a little over 2 minutes left in qualifying here. Looks like Mr. Ficacci is going to top the timesheets. He's at a 155.4. He's over a second faster than Stefan Vappa in second place.
May I say I am shocked. Add these much sarcasm.
Yeah, Steve has been on it all season, hasn't he?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. You can't miss a race with Steve on me.
Reed Shannabrook currently in third, just a few tenths behind Vappa. Underwood at a 157.5 in fourth, and Curtis rounds out our top 5 at a 158.2. What was your fastest time in practice?
57.2.
57.2.
It wasn't a very honest 57.2 because of how the track limits are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sneak up on you where most tracks you can into the AstroTurf. You can't even really touch it here. iRacing put in that new update They changed what track limits are. It's still as confusing as F1's understanding of it. So, try to work with that. You need to learn
Trying to
stay
keep
on
the cheating at bay, I take it.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, first time running the track. I don't know fully where I'm going. And, track limits sneak up on you really quickly, even though you have miles of width here.
It's a very wide track. And the elevation change seems fantastic as well.
Yeah, it's a little unsettling going into turn 1 because you're so wide out, and then you go to turn in, and as with a single monitor, that is, you go to turn in and you can't see where you need to hit your apex, so you just kind of guess.
On board with Reed Shanabrook, still in third place. Looks like Vappa has gone a little faster, bringing his time down to 156.2. Don't know if Stefan has any experience here at COTA. I know that Fakachi has raced here before.
Stefan said he just bought the track tonight, and Steve, I believe, went faster because he was in the 50.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know Steve has raced here before in the Miata series that he races in.
Yeah.
And this seems like one of those tracks where knowing the track is a huge advantage.
Yeah, experience at this one's definitely play into it, because if you don't know it, you're like, my braking point's kind of like here, and my turn in, I'll just get there eventually. Yeah, it's a weird track, but it's very fast.
Yeah, I took a few laps a couple days ago just to get a little bit of an understanding of it for the broadcast, and I never did figure out which way it went. I didn't have enough laps.
Yeah, it's like that first time driving Road Atlanta going up the hill.
Right. Which way does it go? Well, we are wrapping up qualifying here. About 5 seconds left. So, Ian, we'll let you jump into the car. Good luck in the qualifying race.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll chat soon. All right. And qualifying is over. We have a grid for our qualifying race. Steve Fakachi on the pole. Stefan Vapp on the outside pole. Reed Shanabrook third. Fourth is Jeff Underwood, followed by Dave Curtis and Jim Graziano. Fourth row is Carlos Bonds and Mac McCormick. And the fifth row is John Clerk and Ian Didson, who did not qualify. So Didson choosing to start from the back. And if you watched F1 this weekend, you'll see that sometimes that can really pay off. Still waiting for some of our racers to join the grid. And once they arrive, we'll get the lights and we'll begin our qualifying race. Sounds like someone's trying to burn off some fuel. Still waiting for Vappa and Fakachi to join the grid. Fakachi is on the grid. Just waiting for Vappa. Still waiting on Vappa, and there he is. And we should get the lights. And we're off for our qualifying race. And there we see the F1 style lights on the board. And we've got contact between Underwood and Shanabrook. Fikachi and Vappa are cleanly away. Underwood has the position from Shannabrook. Oh, Reed is loose, and he collects Curtis, and they're both off the track. Underwood is safely away, following Vappa, who is following Fikachi. Vappa, of course, learning the track, will get faster lap to lap as he learns it more. Shannabrook is in the pits now. Ditson is already up to 5th position after starting 10th. Ditson currently working on Jim Graziano. On board with Ditson as he chases Graziano. Oh, Ditson is off. Ditson did say that he wasn't very familiar with the track. So many corners here, it seems like it'd be easy to get lost. Back up front, Fikachi continues to lead over Vappa. The gap is 2.5. Vappa doing a good job of keeping in touch. Again, this is a qualifying race. No need to win this race, but for these guys, they want to be on the front row. Underwood still following closely in 3rd. Jumping back, Graziano is a few seconds back. Ditson is closing in on him. Ditson is working on him. Ditson does appear to have the speed. And he's by. Graziano's sticking with it though. He has the inside on the next corner. Wisely steps back and lets Ditson take the position though. Ditson had the line. And now Ditson sets off to try to track down the top 3. But I'd say this was a very successful start for him. He's made up 6 positions thus far in the race. Further back, Dave Curtis now working on John Clerk and Carlos Bonds. Curtis damaged front wing after that contact with Shannabrook lap 1. Train of cars here. McCormack trying to track down Graziano, followed closely by Bonds, Clerk, and Curtis. Shannabrook way back now after his pit stop. Up front, Fikachi has increased the interval to 2 seconds. It's another 2 seconds from Vappa back to Underwood, and 8 seconds back to Ditson. As you can see, this train of cars still stuck together. Bonds working on McCormack now. Bonds getting ever so closer to McCormack. Wow, what a view here in these S's. Fantastic shot. And Bonds loses some steam. Looks like Clerk taking advantage, closing the gap to Bonds now. Clerk takes a look. Must be in the draft on Bonds now. Can he take advantage of that is the question. following Clerk from behind now. See this train of cars still all very close together. All the gaps up front are increasing. Less the gap between Underwood and Ditson. And Curtis makes the move on Clerk. Impressive considering the status of Curtis's front wing. Quite damaged from that lap 1 incident. Bonds again attempting to make a move on McCormack. Clerk attempting to make a move back on Curtis. Lots of action here on the main straight as they climb the hill into turn 1. Bonds and McCormack still incredibly close together. Bonds doing a good job of hanging on in the wash of McCormack's downforce. McCormack pulling away there. It does seem to be difficult to follow the car in front through the S's. But on the straights, there does seem to be a pretty good draft. And Bonds takes advantage of the draft here and gets alongside McCormack. They are side by side, and McCormack holds the position. Nice race craft by both drivers. Bonds again alongside. Now has the inside line. Has the position. McCormack trying to fight back. But Bonds successful with the pass this time. Curtis now trying to close the gap to McCormack. Again, look at the front wing of that car. It is incredibly damaged. It must be affecting his downforce and cornering ability. Curtis continuing to try to edge back to McCormack. Clerk holding on to Curtis. Let's hop back up front. Focacci now with a 3-second lead over Stefan Vappa. Lap times pretty close together though. It should make for an interesting feature race. Underwood desperately trying to keep touch with the top two. Ditson attempting to run down Underwood. He's made a lot of progress. This battle continues as Clerk makes the move on McCormack. Beautiful move under braking. Both drivers keeping cool heads. Nicely done. McCormack now in the draft. McCormack takes advantage of the draft and now successfully passes Clerk. A beautiful move. Nicely done by Mack. Focacci now into the 155s with the fastest lap of the race. Clerk again working on McCormack. He's in the draft. Not able to make it work this time. Can he make a lunge in the turn one? They climb the hill. He's not quite close enough to make a move. McCormack starting to get closer to Curtis. Clerk has a really good run on McCormack. They make their way through the S's. These three still very close together. Bond's now starting to build a gap to this group. McCormack getting closer and closer to Curtis, who is still suffering with a lack of downforce because of the damage to that front wing. McCormack in the draft. He's now reeling Curtis in. He's off the track though. Clerk takes advantage. Clerk is in the draft. Clerk making the move. He's on the outside of this corner though. McCormack has the draft from Curtis. Clerk gives it up. Oh, looks like McCormack and Curtis have touched. Oh no, Clerk was caught up in the incident as well. All three drivers are able to continue. Curtis, the big loser in that escapade. McCormack now sets off an attempt to catch Bonds. Clerk doing a good job once again of sticking with McCormack, and McCormack is off the track. Clerk coming onto the main straight has the position back. Curtis now starting to make inroads to McCormack. Clerk now pulling away from McCormack. Just a couple minutes left in this qualifying race. Curtis is falling a bit back now. I think there's just too much damage on that car. McCormack attempting to set off again after Clerk. And this should be the last lap of this qualifying race. Clark seems to be comfortably in 7th position now. Bonds very comfortably in 6th position, has put a mighty gap on Clark. Graziano is safe in 5th. Ditson has not been able to run down Underwood. Looks like he'll be starting the feature race in 4th position. His lap time's almost identical to Underwood. It should be a great battle between those two in the feature race. No one can touch Steve Ficacci though. This evening, he's setting the pace. Only driver in the 155s. At a 155.6, he has the fast lap of the race. He has his qualifying race under control. He crossed the start-finish. He has pole set for the feature race. Vapa takes second. Underwood coming onto the main straight for third. Ditson onto the main straight for fourth. Graziano entering the main straight. Good run for Jim Graziano. He'll be starting in fifth position. Carlos Bonds crosses start-finish for sixth position. John Clerk passing start-finish for seventh position. Followed closely by Mac McCormack and Dave Curtis. And I believe Reed Shannabrook has dropped out. I think he's waiting for the feature race. He'll be starting from the back, but he will be a very fast car starting from the back of the pack. So our grid is Ficacci on the pole, Vapa on the outside pole, followed on the second row by Underwood and Ditson, third row Graziano and Bonds, fourth row Clerk and McCormack, fifth row is Curtis and Shannabrook. Once again, we await our racers on the grid before we get the lights. This is a 30-minute feature race. We hope you are enjoying tonight's coverage of the VRG VRL at COTA. It looks like Shannabrook has dropped out completely, unless he's starting, I think he's starting from the pit lane. Graziano has already made it past. Carlos Bonds made it past Graziano. Oh, and we have a melee. Vapa's to the lead. Underwood and Graziano and Clerk and McCormack and Curtis have all had contact. Oh, Ditson is off the track into the wall. Vapa now with a 3-second lead over Ficacci. Not sure what happened to Ficacci at the start of the race. We'll have to go back and watch the excitement from the start, but let's watch some of this action here. We have Jeff Underwood making a move on Mac McCormack. McCormack not giving in easily. Followed closely by Dave Curtis. Oh no! And there's contact. That looked very much like a racing incident. Two cars trying to occupy the same space is never going to work. Terrible start to this race for Jeff Underwood. $19 laps to go now in our feature. Vapa still out front. 2.5 second lead over Ficacci. Bonds now in third place. Followed closely by Graziano in fourth and McCormack in fifth. McCormack now challenged by Dave Curtis. This battle from the qualifying race has moved on to the feature. John Clerk again part of this three-way battle. Underwood attempting to catch this pack. Terrific battle in the middle of the pack. Curtis attempts to make a move. Late braking, no, he's not going to get there. But McCormick's off the track and Curtis has the position. Underwood has the position over Clerk. 4 cars side by side. Tandem groups of 2. Looks like Curtis and Underwood have both successfully executed the passes. McCormack still fighting hard though and takes a lunge. He's not able to hold on. Underwood again around McCormack, going the long way. Can he make it stick? Underwood barging his way through McCormack, has the position now. Clerk now attempting to work on McCormack. Looks like Ditson and Shannabrook both out of the race. McCormack again working on Underwood and he makes the move. But he's off the track. Underwood keeps the position. McCormack attempting to follow again. Clerk takes advantage and closes the gap to McCormack. Lots of action in the mid-pack. Clerk now trying to work on McCormack, but he's off the track. Curtis now off on his own in 5th position. Graziano working on Bonds. Clerk again working on McCormack. Focacci with the fastest lap out of the race at a 1:56.3. Let's go back to the beginning of the race and see what happened to Focacci and Vappa. Well, Focacci just didn't get a good start. Vappa and Underwood, both with terrific starts. Oh! And the melee behind, something happened to Focacci's car. Ditson got past him and was actually in 2nd place until he spun out. I'm not sure what happened to Focacci there. It's almost like he missed a shift. Back up front, Focacci now beginning to close the gap to Vappa. We're right about 2 seconds. Curtis has had an incident. Let's see if we can find out what happened. Jeff Underwood currently working on him. Let's see if we can figure out what happened here. Oh, just a small slip up. Underwood working on Curtis. Replay of Clerk passing McCormack. McCormack getting back past Clerk, and Clerk again getting past McCormack. Dave Curtis has crashed again. What happened? Underwood making the move. Oh, and they touch. Oh, and Curtis is off. Oh, no. Graziano now reeling Bonds in for third position. Graziano working hard for a podium. And thanks to all of you that are watching on Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate you taking the time to enjoy our broadcast. Again, I'm Jim Karamanis with the Vintage Racer Group, bringing you tonight's Virtual Racer League action as we watch Jim Graziano attempting to run down Carlos Bonds. This the battle for third position. This is to get on the podium. And we apologize as we have some difficulties with our cameras, and we're back. Graziano still working on Bonds, but even closer is McCormack and Clerk. And we continue to have issues. Oh, we're back with Clerk. And McCormack is vanished. I'm not sure what happened. So something's going on with iRacing now. This is a shame. Out front, Vappa with a couple second lead. McCormack, not sure what's going on with McCormack. We're not able to jump in with him. Graziano still working on Bonds. Believe McCormack is having some connection issues. Back up front, the gap is now only 1.4 seconds. Focacci is getting closer. Let's go on board now with Focacci as he attempts to run Vappa down. He can now has him set in his sights. Enjoy the wonderful sounds of the Lotus 79 here at Circuit of the Americas. Focacci getting closer and closer to Vappa. Still lots of time left in this race. Focacci with plenty of time to make a move for the lead. And we've confirmed that McCormack lost internet connectivity and is out of the race. That's 3 drivers now out of the race. Focacci continuing to work on Vappa. Focacci has now set the fast lap of the race at a 1:55.5, a full second faster than Vappa. He's poking in, trying to make a move. He's in the draft. They're side by side. He has the inside. Vappa holds the position. These two couldn't be any closer. Fakachi has the speed, but Vappa using all his racecraft now to keep Fakachi back. These drivers know each other well, have raced together many times, have raced together on endurance teams. Fakachi gets a better jump off that corner, closing the gap again. Vappa making his car very wide now. Going slightly defensive. Keeps Fakachi behind him. Fakachi looks to the outside. Vappa holds him off. Just over halfway through this race, 13 laps to go. I think we're actually going to run out of time tonight. I think we'll hit the 30-minute mark before we get to the full laps. Fakachi in the draft. Attempting to make a move around the outside. Vappa has it covered again. Vappa showing terrific racecraft as he keeps a faster car behind. Vappa now into the 55s with his own personal best, limiting Fakachi to a high 55 lap time as well. The lap times are close enough where it is going to be a tall order to try to get by. He has the speed, but not quite enough, and Vappa once again making his car wide. Excellent defensive drive by Vappa. Positioning his car fairly but properly. Great battle between these two. Fakachi, this season's points leader, currently following the champion of the last 5 VRL seasons in a row. Titanic battle up front. 23 seconds in front of third place Carlos Bonds. These two are in a class of their own. Fakachi once again around the outside. He's not going to get it done there. Will he try the over-under? No, he's not able to do it. Vappa gets too good of a jump off the corner. He keeps Fakachi behind him again. Fakachi pops in, backs off. These two continuing to make it exciting. Focacci now backs off a little bit. Perhaps cooling the tires to make a run. No, he's back on it. He's right on Vappa. They're as close as they've been all race. To get to the outside, he slides off just a hair, but he has a better run coming off the corner. Coming into the zone. As they crest the hill, Vappa has the inside line going into the corner. He should be able to maintain the position. Once again, clean between these two. Excellent racecraft from both drivers. Vappa using all of his vast experience to keep Focacci back. Ten minutes left in this race. Focacci again with a great run on Vappa. Vappa once again defensively placing the car. Focacci has the position. Can Vappa cut underneath? No. Focacci has it. And with 10 minutes to go, Focacci has taken the lead for the first time tonight in the feature race. Immediately starting to build a gap on Vappa. Vappa staying in touch, doing everything he can to try to get back. He's within a second, close enough for the draft. These two drivers taking slightly different lines through this complex. Vappa now starting to close the gap a bit. Again, very different lines through that complex. Focacci with a much better jump through that corner. Oh, and Vappa gets a little loose coming onto the main straight. That allows Focacci to build a gap almost to 2 seconds. John Clark has crashed. He's in the pits. But there's no cars behind him on track, so his position is safe. Vappa still attempting to catch Focacci. Vappa much quicker through that section. Faster through the S's. Closing the gap to Focacci once again. The Lotus 79 is making glorious noises. The gap is just over a second now. If Vappa can get back into the draft of Focacci's Lotus, he may be able to get back to him. 7 minutes left in the race. 1.5 seconds is the gap now. Vappa seems to be pushing hard, trying to close that gap. Fikachi seems like he's trying to control the pace now. Trying not to push too hard, but keep a sizable gap between the two cars. 1.7 seconds is the gap now. Fikachi continues to lead the race. Holding the gap steady now at around 2 seconds. Back in third place, Bonds is followed by Underwood, Graziano, and Curtis. This is the battle for the podium position. .30 back of the leaders. Underwood now making good inroads on Bonds. Underwood trying to get back to that third place. Bonds continuing to put down solid lap times. Underwood is a bit quicker, but when he pull it off, there's about 4 minutes left in the race. He could be running out of time, but he is edging closer to Bonds. The gap only a half second now. Graziano now fallen out of contention for the podium spot, unless there's a melee between these two. Underwood continuing to work on Bonds. On board now with Jeff Underwood. And he's in the draft, and the gap is closing furthermore. But there's 3 minutes left in the race. Both drivers very smooth through that complex. Underwood barely turning the wheel. Underwood looks like he's had laps at COTA before. Clearly knows his way around this track. Bonds doing a terrific job of keeping him back. Bonds goes defensive now. Keeps Underwood behind once again. And behind Curtis is getting closer to Graziano. Two battles back to back here. Up front, Fakachi still with a 3-point something lead over Vapa. We'll stay with this battle for third as Underwood is close as he's ever been. He has the draft, as does Dave Curtis and Graziano. Underwood has the inside. Has to back out of it. Bonds maintains the position. Curtis has the inside line on Graziano. He has the position. Dave Curtis moves into the top 5. Curtis gets it done on Graziano. Underwood still trying to catch Bonds. Bonds masterfully keeping him behind. Back up front, Fakachi's built a 4+ second lead over Vapa. Fakachi continuing to stretch his lead. Fakachi now into the 154s. Lowering the fastest lap time of the race. And it's over. Fakachi with the win. Vapa, second place. Bonds and Underwood are still battling it out for that final podium position. Underwood is off the track and he's back on. Bonds continuing to fight for his podium. Masterful job of defense as they get to the back straight, and Bonds holds on to the podium position. You can see the excitement as he spins off track in celebration, and Dave Curtis gives him a love tap, as does Jim Graziano. And our final results are Steve Fakachi, first place, followed by Stefan Vapa and Carlos Bonds. Fourth place, Jeff Underwood, followed by Dave Curtis and Jim Graziano. Seventh place, John Clark, followed by Mac McCormack, Ian Ditson, and Reed Shannabrook. As the racers get on their cars, let's see if some of them might come stop by for some interviews. So give us just a moment as we give them a chance to unbuckle, get their racing suits off, get some water, and pop into the booth. So we'll be right back.
Okay.
Just ridiculous. The first race, I ended up with, I think, 1X for the race.
Gentlemen, welcome. It's Jim Karamanis from the booth. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jim. How are you?
I'm great. A little gas from talking so much. I was alone in the booth tonight, but you guys put on a great show. Steve Ficacci, congratulations on yet another win.
Thank you.
How did things go from your perspective tonight? It looks like Stefan made it tough for you in that feature race.
Yeah, I first race, the heat, I just led from the beginning and wasn't sure how fast Stefan could go. I think I maybe put a little time on him, but not a ton, so I knew the feature could be close. And then going into turn one, I'm used to going from fifth gear down to first. I went down 4 gears, put the car in neutral, and couldn't get the car back at first. So Stefan had a bit of a gap there, and took me longer than I thought was going to catch him. And then once I did catch him, it's tough to get around. There's a little bit of aero wash on the front, and we don't have a ton of there's not a ton of draft. Getting up to speed, I think the car jazz pretty well, but the car is kind of very. I guess the downforce is just so high. The car kind of stalls out at like 152, 153. So, there was a few times where like I'd be trying to pass him or he'd be trying to pass me. We'd just be side by side because we both kind of hit that wall. And it made I guess that's turn 9, real interesting.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation. I was up here in the booth wondering what happened to you in turn 1 as Vappa and Ditson blew by you. But that definitely explains it. We haven't had too many missed shifts in this car, but I guess it can happen.
So I went into neutral, and then I guess I was too heavy on the gas, and I wouldn't go into first, and I was just thankful nobody ran me over, because that would have ended it early.
Well, there was quite the melee behind you. I'm glad that you missed it so that you were able to make a race of it with Stefan. Congratulations on yet another win. And Stefan, you really did your best to put on your Fernando Alonso impersonation tonight.
Yeah, everything I could do without getting silly about it. I didn't want to wreck either of us, and all I really wanted to do was make it hard on him. I knew he had pace on me. The qualifying race showed that. So I was a little surprised to get in front of him, but once I was there, I thought, this isn't going to last all that long. So I was happy to hold him off as long as I did. I had a lot of fun racing with him for those laps. And he's right. The front end completely went away once I was in his aero wash, which was interesting because I had no practice doing that. I have very little time running this track and absolutely zero time until the race running behind another car. So that was interesting and educational.
It explains a lot. It seemed like on the straights that there was a little bit of a draft, but every time you went through the S's, the following car seemed to drop 1 to 2 seconds behind. It made quite a lot of work for the following driver. Yeah,
it certainly did. And the other one that I had a lot of trouble in, I guess, is turn 17, or I guess it's 14, 17, 18. I don't know how many turns there are, but there's a lot of right-handers all at once. And the car just wanted to go all the way to the outside there, so I had to completely change the way I entered that corner until I let Steve get far enough ahead that it was no longer a problem.
Well done. It was exciting. It was clean. It was exactly what we needed.
You're welcome.
So, Jeff, your night was pretty much the opposite of the front two. You sort of had to start from the front, go all the way to the back, and make your way back up to the grid again. So tell everyone about your adventure, because I think these two may not know about it.
Well, it was quite the adventure, I guess. So I guess going up into turn 1, I think we kind of accordioned up, and I think Ian kind of got into me and had a little half spin. It wasn't much, but it was just enough. And so, yeah, I started from the back, and then coming through, it seemed like there was every pass ended up being some sort of contact, just mostly minor. I actually, while you guys were talking, was went back and looking at the replay because I wanted to. A lot of times you don't understand it completely until you can see it outside of the car, and I think it was all just basically racing incident stuff. But still kind of a bummer to begin with. The first race I ended with a 1X, and this race I ended up with like, I don't know, 20 maybe.
Yeah,
So
I suspected as much. And my analysis is the same as yours. I looked like a bunch of racing incidents, but I was impressed that you're able to make it up to third because at one point we could see the underside of your car.
yeah, actually I only got to fourth. I couldn't quite get Carlos.
That's right. That's right.
I kind of burned down the car and burned down the driver. The last couple of laps trying to make something happen, and then I really ended up kind of making a couple of bad choices as far as trying to set up some passes, so that just didn't work.
Yeah, and we did get that a little bit on screen, and looked like Carlos did a good job, as just like Stefan did, holding you back. Looked like if you had a few more laps, you probably could have pulled it off, but he seemed to have just enough time to place the car just right to make it difficult for you.
Yeah, honestly, I was playing it a little patient because my timing was off compared to the race. I was showing at one point 5 laps to go when I was starting to set up passes on Carlos, and then the next lap said white flag. So I was kind of out of time.
Ah, yeah. So we hit the 30-minute threshold is what happened.
Oh, okay. Because qualifying seemed to get cut a lap short too.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't figure that out. So I guess that explains it then.
Right. So qualifying race is 15 minutes limited, and the feature race is 30-minute limited. So it could be laps or it could be time, depending. And this is such a large track, I'm not surprised that we hit the time windows tonight.
Yeah, that was the first time we've hit the time window.
This season, yes. Yes. So next week we're at Sebring. What are you guys expecting there? I believe that's a track where everyone has a lot more experience than at COTA. Probably some of the guys that had the upper hand this week because they've raced at COTA where the others haven't. Maybe that goes away.
I know it's a lot of low speed corners. The surface is really bumpy. It may be tricky. I know it's kind of what I would expect, especially like it has those big curbs on the inside. So you got to get as close as you can to those curbs without hitting them, and then also be mindful of the bumps. And at the low speed, you're not going to have a lot of downforce. So I think it might be tough.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree.
And most people don't realize Formula One did actually race there, but I think it was like the 1950s, so the cars were very different.
The pavement might have been better too.
Yeah, it wasn't so bumpy yet.
or it may have been exactly the same as it is now, knowing that place. However, IndyCar does a lot of practice there, though. So they have some high-speed cars on the track, and of course, the IMSA cars race there. So it does make for some interesting racing. There's not a lot of runoff, and there's some really big curves. And I haven't driven this car much, but how does this car react to those steep curves?
Poorly.
Yeah, it doesn't like them at all.
Yeah, definitely not going to want to be on those curves.
Well, it sounds like it might be a race of attrition then. Well, thank you all for putting on a great show tonight. It's good to be back on the air again after a 2-week hiatus, and we'll see all of you again next week at Sebring.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep. Thank you, Jim. See you next week.
Have a good night.
Night.
And once again, this was Jim Karamanis bringing you coverage tonight of the Vintage Racer Group's Virtual Racer League. This was Season 8, Race 5 from Circuit of the Americas. We hope you've enjoyed tonight's coverage. And we will be back next week at Sebring for Race 6.